Dublin might be world famous, but did you know it's facing a bit of a crisis? The fair city welcomes millions of visitors every year to see its castles, cathedrals, and of course, the Guinness storehouse.
All the Americans are over here. Oh my God, I love this, I love Ireland. They doing my
It's an area rich in history and culture. But while its attractions are a sight to behold, getting to them isn't exactly straightforward.
Can anybody explain to me why the traffic is so bad?
A 45-minute journey can turn into a 3-hour journey.
So you're looking at about between 3.5 and 4 hours on the road every day.
During our peak rush hours, the average speed across the network is about 11 kilometres an hour.
11 kilometres an hour.
If you're a fast runner, you'll actually run quicker than that.
Dublin's population has grown by nearly a third since the turn of the century, but its travel infrastructure has in no way kept pace. It's now the 11th most congested city in the world, and each year it's climbing the rankings. In 2025, as a driver in Dublin, you'll have sat in traffic delays for an average of 95 mind-numbing hours across the year. In that time, you could play more than 80 Gaelic football matches, or watch the entirety of Father Ted 9 times through. And by the way, that's a 17% increase in delay times on 2024 and a 32% increase on 2023. Put simply, travelling around Dublin is a nightmare, and the situation's getting worse.
It's actually a good point, you know what I'm trying to say?
By 2040, the economic costs associated with congestion are expected to hit a whopping €1.5 billion every year. Ouch. The thing is, the government was supposed to be sorting this with a massive investment into infrastructure, but officials have U-turned on a policy to spend on a ratio of 2-to-1 between public transport and roads. There are desperate calls for a travel fix because the problem not only affects people personally, but it's a bit of a red flag for foreign investors. A lack of travel infrastructure isn't a great advertisement. For nearly 30 years, Ireland has teased a desperately needed metro to tackle its congestion nightmare, but without really making any proper inroads towards building it. And with Dublin's travel problem getting worse and worse, what the hell's being done to fix this city? It's not like Ireland doesn't know that Dublin needs help with its travel horror show. At the turn of the century, the government proposed a flashy new metro as part of its Transport 21 initiative. The plan was to spend €34 billion modernising Ireland's travel infrastructure, and that included an underground train line from St Stephen's Green to Dublin Airport and then continuing to Swords.
But what I am confirming today is that by 2007 we will have the airport link done, because that has been identified now as a government priority.
You see, Dublin has fallen well behind. Beyond its congestion dilemma, if you've tried travelling to Dublin Airport, you'll be more than aware that there's no rail access whatsoever.
You saw all the cars queuing up going out the M50. We just came up from Galway this morning. There's no transport system in Ireland as far as I can see.
It's actually one of the last European capitals without a direct train to its airport. You've got to take a taxi, get a lift, or jump on the bus, which seems a bit ridiculous for a city of this scale. In 2005, Metro North, as it was known, was formally thrown into the limelight. It was seen as a way to drag Dublin into the 21st century. This thing even gained planning permission, which was a huge moment. It kind of represented this big new dawn for the people of Dublin. But by 2011, it had become a non-starter.
The Irish economy was considered one of the most stable in Europe.
One of the most booming economies in Europe.
It became known as the Celtic Tiger.
Then the financial crisis hit.
The Celtic Tiger is dead.
Officially, the country is now in recession.
What's going on in Ireland? Greed and more fucking greed.
But the then government rubbished talk about a bailout.
Is it just total fiction?
It is fiction.
3 days later, central banks said there would be a bailout.
We had a stupid fucking government. With a regulator that was asleep at the wheel. And of course, above all, fucking bankers.
There are taxpayers at home in Ireland who would like some answers.
Now.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're a liability because nobody believes you.
Welfare queues are forming for the first time since the early 90s.
Sake, man, this is a joke.
So I'm sensing a wee bit of discontent?
You are indeed, sir.
As the money dried up due to the global recession, Metro North slipped further and further down the priority list. Various iterations have since followed. In 2018, an updated plan offered hope that Dubliners could get around the city via an underground train line by 2027. But come 2021, with no spades in the ground, the government said the timeline was, well, just take a listen to this.
That was never likely to be achievable, I'll be honest. And the budget forecast for it is also much smaller than the likely final outcome.
Oh, Really?
And while they were right, because that would be next year and no groundwork had started yet, why set an unrealistic deadline to begin with? Construction should then have gotten underway by 2025, but the latest metro designs didn't gain planning permission until October last year. And because of the twisting nature of Ireland's so far failed attempts to build a metro, the city's residents are somewhat sceptical it'll ever happen.
I think they should get on and build the bloody thing.
But can the government be trusted?
If you were born the day that the metro was initially due to open, you'll be able to vote by the time it does actually open.
Even though it could cut travel time to the city by more than half, Dubliners have been stung by promises of an underground rail line in the past, so confidence is pretty low. Even the B1M's own Irishman and video editor extraordinaire Jim Casey is far from convinced. With all that being said, the latest plans give real reason for careful optimism.
Government have committed in the last budget €2 billion for Metro to proceed. So government and the agencies that are supporting and building and delivering Metro are proceeding as if this piece of infrastructure is going to happen. We're hiring people. The tender documents have been put together to bring consortia to the city to deliver our Metro.
For the second time, planning permission has been granted for a metro in Dublin. And while it's taken countless time-consuming discussions about where the route should go and how it should be constructed, that almost makes sense. This metro has been designed, redesigned and redesigned again, and developing various iterations of the route, even if they're inevitably cast aside, is a time-consuming task. But it doesn't have to be. While I've been using Rayon Design's all-in-one CAD software to create my dream home right smack in the middle of Dublin, which, by the way, guys, I'll only need like 1 trillion YouTube video views to pay for, this platform is actually the ideal workmate for any type of project, including, for example, a massive new metro line. Rayon Design is a fully web-based next-generation tool built for designers and architects. So, say you want to design the swanky new train carriages that could run through Dublin. You can import industry-standard files or create your own design from scratch. But what if you can't find, for instance, a train seat from the thousands of CAD blocks in the pre-existing software libraries? Well, Rayon Design has an AI tool that can vectorize your images. As an example, my train carriage features a corner sofa and a squat rack. And because it's all in one, I can design, edit, document, and then present my proposal without having to faff around switching tools. Just imagine, no more wasting time transferring files between multiple different softwares. Whether you're an urban planner designing the next great metro line, or like me, you just want to dream up a swanky Irish penthouse, you can try Rayon Design for free using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen now. Now, let's get back to Dublin's metro, because it looks like they might actually be getting somewhere. Given this is the country's first ever metro, authorities are obviously keen to get it right. Spending billions on a project like this and then getting the route wrong would be disastrous, especially when it's already taken quite a lot of time and has already been a bit of a debacle.
Honestly, I think people just want the government and the authorities to get on with it and deliver it and stop talking about it. When it was announced the last time, there was a researcher in zoology that basically said the time that we've been talking about the metro and to construct a metro, a snail could have gone from Dublin city centre out past the airport and do the whole line based upon how long it's taken us to get to where we are right now. So I think right now the money is there, the ambition is there, the support is there. So if not now, when?
After waiting so long already, it probably feels like this merry-go-round could continue forever. But ask Torontonians, who waited nearly 20 years for work to start on Eglinton Crosstown, or the city of Thessaloniki, which waited a century for its metro, and you'll realise that these projects can take an absolute age to happen, and then all of a sudden the city turns into a worksite. And with that said, the bidding process for contracts to build Dublin MetroLink has actually started. The plan is to link the north and south of Dublin, connecting the airport with each end of the city via 16 stations. Inevitably, as with all good things, it's not going to come cheap. The line will stretch nearly 19 kilometres from Charlemont, passing through 3 different universities, schools, hospitals, going all the way up to Swords in North County Dublin, one of the fastest growing areas in all of Ireland. And all of that will come with a whopping price tag of €9.5 billion. For context, that's around €500 million per kilometre. While cited as unlikely, the Department for Transport said the project could reach a staggering €23 billion. That would give it a cost per kilometre similar to that of New York's 2nd Avenue subway. Dublin MetroLink could become one of the most expensive underground train lines of all time. So the big question is why? Why is Ireland's first metro so expensive? Especially when you consider that an early iteration of the plan came with an estimate of just €3 billion. Well, inflation certainly plays a part, but a lot of the cost comes with the construction methodology. Earlier designs called for Dublin's metro to be largely delivered using cut and cover, which is kind of the ideal. You excavate from the surface down to your desired depth, construct your structure, and then backfill on top of it. Cut and cover is pretty cost effective and less intense than trudging deep underground. You're not having to dig too far down, which means no serious engineering at depths, and perhaps most importantly, you haven't got to buy or hire one of these. If you spent any more than 5 minutes watching one of our videos, then you're probably going to recognise TBMs or tunnel boring machines. They dig deep below the surface, carving through rock and soil to create, well, tunnels, and they're far from boring. It's a whole lot more expensive than the alternative. Nevertheless, the latest schematics make regular use of them. You see, cut and cover is incredibly disruptive. Roads have to be closed or converted to one way for weeks and even months on end. One of the appeals of Dublin is those picturesque narrow streets, but in the 11th most congested city on the planet, more chaos than necessary is just asking for trouble. In short, tunnel boring limits the chaos, which is crucial when you're working in a dense city like this. And actually, the plan's been changed a bit, so the trains are now going to travel through one single bore tunnel rather than the originally planned twin bore system. And the idea of that is to cut down on work and ultimately some cost. Cut and cover is going to be limited to specific shallow sections and surface stations along the route, for instance at O'Connell Street and St Stephen's Green. Deep station boxes, basically like a large shell underground to house the station structure, are going to be dug into the earth near heritage sites. Tunnelling has got to be minimised to protect the foundations of those buildings. Now, tunnels along the route are going to be 9.5 metres in diameter and reach depths of up to 30 metres. And throughout the process, settlement and vibration are going to be monitored to make sure the ground remains stable. Now, all of that work is necessary to build a much needed piece of infrastructure, and for construction fans like myself, it's a pretty cool project to be able to watch, follow and check in on. But the process is incredibly disruptive. The tunnelling, the rerouting of existing travel options, the noise, the dust, the list goes on. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the Dublin MetroLink is going to make things a whole lot worse before it makes them any better. This metro line is going through the heart of the city, driving under and through urban areas and residential spaces. And beyond some necessary but congestion-causing road closures, some of the tunnelling work is set to be carried out around the clock. As a TBM approaches an area, there'll be about 3 weeks worth of noise, and then another 3 weeks worth of noise as it leaves again. That's 6 weeks of unavoidable construction noise, and in truth, TBMs aren't exactly subtle. You've got to remember that these tunnels are being dug directly beneath workplaces, public parks, and people's homes. So, what about escaping to a local park for some peace and quiet? Well, not so fast. 20% of the city's most popular green space, St Stephen's Green, is going to be closed during construction. And Albert College Park, 15 minutes from the city centre, flush with trees, green space and a playground, is going to be the centre of a mandatory intervention shaft. You see, tunnels have to offer escape routes and ventilation at pretty regular points along the route. For instance, if you had a 3,000 metre long tunnel and a fire broke out, emergency services would have a serious battle to reach commuters who'd be suffering with very little fresh air. The EU calls for these intervals to be less than 1,000 metres apart. And therein lies the problem. The section of track that runs underneath the area between Collins Avenue and Griffith Park is nearly 1,500 metres, i.e. it gets a big shake of the head from the EU, and that's why an intervention shaft has to be created no more than a kilometre from either of these stations. Albert College Park is the destination of choice. But while Dubliners are battling congested roads and closed-off parks, I'm afraid the travel problem is going to stretch even further. The irony of building a new train line is that it's going to temporarily close some of the existing above-ground routes. Commuters are going to have to find other ways to travel, whether that's on redirected trains, on buses, or, take a deep breath, by getting back into their cars. Sections of the Western commuter line are going to be shut for nearly 2 years, and the Southwestern commuter line is going to face closures for up to 5 months, which is not going to be pretty.
Now, this isn't some agenda against Ireland's approach to construction. If any dense city anywhere in the world were to start building open tunnels in the streets or constructing new stations in the middle of its urban centre, there would of course be a space issue. And it's not like large sections of Dublin can be closed down for this work to take place. This project has got to coexist around everyday life in this city.
But given how most of these metro builds go around the world, and the fact that Ireland is going to be doing this for the first time, don't be surprised if the fair city is a work site for quite a while. Although that absolutely doesn't mean that this thing should be shelved yet again.
These projects are critical pieces of infrastructure for our country, and not being able to deliver them is crippling our cities, crippling our infrastructure, crippling our ability to be able to deliver the housing and transport and meet our climate goals. Hopefully on this one, common sense will prevail and the project will go ahead, because it will have such a fundamental impact upon our city.
But to see the benefits of the line, construction work actually needs to begin. The Minister for Transportation, Darragh O'Brien, previously said that the aim is to break ground in 2027, so fingers crossed. If you're watching this in 2027 or later and it still hasn't started, then we're really sorry to hear that. Beyond the obvious benefits Dublin MetroLink should have on easing congestion here, the line has also got to stack up financially. We know it's going to cost a pretty penny, but early estimates in 2022 from the Department of Transport suggested that the Irish economy would receive about €13.7 billion over a 60-year period due to the metro's existence. What that means, if the project somehow skyrockets to that unlikely €23 billion construction mark, well, let's just hope that doesn't happen. It's not going to be a comfortable journey. Building this route will undoubtedly cause more than a few headaches.
While a healthy dose of scepticism remains among Dubliners, it does seem to finally be happening. This city's waited patiently for an answer to its travel woes for nearly 30 years, and it looks like it might finally be about to get it. This video was sponsored by Rayon Design. Don't forget that if you're a professional interior designer or an architect, you're going to want to check out Rayon Design for yourself for free at the link in the description. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.